Welcome, my name is Dave. I'm a grants associate at the Edmonton Community Foundation. This recording will provide you an overview of the small grants process and will include some tips and considerations. It's our goal to help support local charities submit strong applications for this program. We have a few changes in store for the small grants program this year. We've expanded the eligibility to include capacity building initiatives to enable organizations strengthen internal operations, invest in staff development, and adapt to changing community needs. We've adjusted the maximum grant amount to $10,000 to hopefully increase the number of organizations we're able to support with this program. And reviews are going to be conducted every 2 months by a team of staff and volunteers, with the first review happening in April. So to learn more about the small grants program, would recommend you go to our website at ecf.ca and look under grants. On the website, you will see some important information, grant guidelines and timelines, as well as information on reporting and how to connect with us. So the small grants program is meant to offer flexible funding for one-time standalone needs, up to a maximum of $10,000. These aren't meant to fund ongoing operations, but rather it's designed to help support organizations address specific needs that can make a meaningful difference. Although the amount of funding available is up to $10,000, we always encourage applicants to request only what they actually need rather than applying for the full amount. This helps us stretch our funding further and support as many community organizations as possible. So this funding can support 2 specific areas. So the first is capacity development. The capacity development focus is to help charities strengthen their internal foundations. So this could include improving their internal systems, investing in staff training, enhancing client services, or even exploring new ways on how they deliver programs. The goal of this is to help build long-term resilience and set organizations up for success. The other area is for unforeseen needs. This funding is intended for unexpected one-time situations that an organization couldn't reasonably plan or budget for. Things that are independent from the regular programming. We should probably also chat about eligibility. To be eligible for this grants program, you must be a registered Canadian charity or other qualified donee. If you're not sure, we would encourage you to check the Canada Revenue Agency's website listing of registered charities. You also have to be based in and or serve the Greater Edmonton Area. This includes the 4 surrounding counties and Indigenous serving organizations on Treaty 6 territory. Those 4 counties that we mentioned would be Sturgeon County, Parkland County, Leduc County, and Strathcona County. National charities may also apply if they demonstrate a strong local connection, such as sustained operations in the Edmonton area, locally based staff, and or board members. We will also need you to be in good standing with ECF with no outstanding or overdue financial reports. This includes those from partnership or collaborative initiatives. Also, organizations can submit 1 application per calendar year. As part of our commitment to equity, the Edmonton Community Foundation will prioritize applications for nonprofits that serve Indigenous, so First Nation, Métis, Inuit organizations, as well as racialized communities and equity groups. How do partnership applications work? So registered charities can have up to 1 active partnership application open at any time. If the application is successful, the registered charity will receive the funding and be responsible for allocating it to the partner nonprofit organization. The registered charity will also be accountable for reporting and sharing relevant project updates with the Edmonton Community Foundation. If you're applying with a partner, would recommend that you apply early, as the application can be a little finicky when working with nonprofit partners. So the application window runs from March 1st to October 1st, or until all of the allocated funds are fully distributed. As mentioned earlier, these applications are reviewed every month. On this slide, you're going to see a breakdown of the 4 intake periods. Each intake shows when the funding decisions will be made and when the earliest date that the eligible expenses become available. For example, if you're submitting an application in March, all of the expenses on your application should be for May 1st or afterwards. So our small grants program receives a wide range of requests every year, and every application is evaluated individually, both against the criteria for the grant and in relation with the overall pool of applicants. We use slightly different considerations on the applications, depending on whether it's a capacity development application or an unforeseen need. So for example, for capacity development applications, we're going to look at whether the initiative clearly strengthens the organization's long-term capacity. We're also going to assess whether there's a clear implementation plan with measurable outcomes. We also want to see how this opportunity addresses a current gap or challenge. We're also going to review the budget and make sure it's reasonable and directly tied to the capacity building activities. When relevant, we expect to see quotes for consulting work or training or other professional services if they're a part of your application. We're also going to consider whether the initiative will have a lasting impact beyond the granting period, and we're going to look at the number of small grants your organization has received in the last couple of years. We have a couple of sample projects here with more detail in our guidelines document as well. For unforeseen need applications, the considerations are similar but geared more towards unexpected situations. So we look at whether the request responds to one-time reasonably unforeseen needs and whether the organization has articulated how the grant will support them or support the community. Again, we want to check that the budget is reasonable and directly connected to the need. Quotes are expected when the request involves consultants or equipment or renovations. And as with capacity development, we're going to take into account how many small grants the organization has previously received. Overall, these considerations will help ensure that funding is directed towards initiatives that are timely and impactful and aligned with the intent of the small grants program. There are specific activities that are not eligible for small grants. So here's a list of some of these examples. It's in greater detail on page 3 of the guidelines on our website. So for example, for small grants, the initiative should wrap up within 6 months. This grant is not for ongoing core operational or programming expenses. Things like travel outside the region or capital campaigns, annual events, conferences, or other celebrations typically aren't funded by this grant stream. Grants that primarily benefit individuals will also not be considered. So that includes things like food hampers or bus tickets on applications. So just be mindful of those pieces. And again, we need to see specific benefit to the Edmonton region when you're applying for a small grants application. And again, faith-based organizations are welcome to apply, but the services must be open to all Edmontonians, and they must not require any sort of religious participation whatsoever. So again, the full list is available at ecf.ca/grants/smallgrants. I'm going to do a quick demo of our SmartSimple system. So once again, if you want to access our application portal on our website at ecf.ca, you'll see the button here in the upper right-hand corner. You can also visit ecf.smartsimple.ca. If you're new to our system, you're going to need to register. The system is connected to the Canada Revenue Agency's list of registered charities, so only registered charities can submit applications. If you're partnering with a charity, it's the registered charity that's going to have to be the one that opens the application for you. When registering, follow the prompts carefully. If you're having trouble finding your organization, try a few different variants of the name. So for example, I might write Edmonton Community or Community Foundation and put Edmonton in the city. There might be a few ways to search for your organization. If you're new to being a registered charity, it doesn't always sync up right away. So a quick email to us at grants@ecf.ca will help us resolve that issue and get you signed on. Also, when you register, you're going to want to make sure you register as an organization, not as an individual. So here I am looking at our grant application system. It's a little early for me, so our small grants aren't open at this time, but you can go in and hit apply now if it says small grants. I've already opened my draft. I'm going to go right here into the draft applications, and I'm going to hit open on my small grant application. So here you'll see my contact information that was there from the time I registered, as well as if you want to invite a collaborator. So if you want to invite a colleague to help you work on this application, or if you're opening an application for a nonprofit partner, this is where you would add that person so they can go in and add this application. So you invite collaborators. So I've already entered Serena in here. I've invited Serena to register for this system so she can access this application. You would just go ahead and enter all this information here, hit save, and then hit invite. The application information stage, this will be similar to what's in the grant guidelines document. Recommend that you read it carefully before you get started. Includes information about what we fund and what we don't. Right at the bottom here, there'll be a checkbox that you'll need to check, and you'll need to go in and select yes to move forward. On the request slide, so for example, if you are applying on behalf of a nonprofit partner, this is where you'd select yes. If you're applying in partners, this is where you'd add more information about the name of the nonprofit partner, the equity seeking group that they apply with, and you can even add some information about how your organizations are aligned. There's also a number of basic application questions like title, concise description, the amount you're requesting from ECF. It's small grants. You can add up to $10,000. This particular project that I've put in here is going to cost $12,000. So recommend you go through each question. The other one I want to talk about is whether you're applying for a small grant, a capacity development or unforeseen need grant. This is where you'd select it. So for example, if it was an unforeseen need application, that question would be, describe the unexpected need your organization is facing and why this support is critical. If you're applying for a capacity development funding, the question is different. So make sure that you select the right one for your application. Again, each of these has a word count and relatively straightforward with the option to add additional information at the end of the application. Now I've logged here onto the budget page. We have a little bit of information about the budget as well as a video that provides more information about entering a budget specifically. But I can just open up our budget screen right here so you can see more information. You'll see the ECF requested amount pops in right here that you entered on the previous screen. You have the option to add other revenues for your project or initiative. You can add additional detail as well. And again, you'll have everything will add up. So your revenues are going to be $12,000 on this example. As for expenses, it's recommended that you provide a description of the item and make a note of which are funded by ECF dollars and which are not. You can expand the boxes so you can see what's in there. Recommend you add as much detail as you can. The budget should clearly identify which line items ECF supports. It should be broken down by line item. You should identify other funding sources as mentioned, as well as your budget will absolutely need to be balanced. So your total revenues will need to equal your total expenses for you to be able to submit your application. If you included honoraria or speaker fees, please explain how you determine the value per person. There's also a use additional budget notes box where you can add extra context to your application. So if you need to add information about other funding sources that might be pending, your plans to sustain this work into the future, this is where you'd add a little additional information. And finally, there's the attachment pages. So if you do have quotes for training or construction or other contractors that need to come into your organization, those are very helpful in these applications. You just add the information here to drop it into your application, and you'll need to certify that everything you entered was accurate. But that's a quick demo of our SmartSimple system. So before I wrap this presentation up, I wanted to share a couple tips towards submitting your small grant application. Number one we have is keep it focused. So maybe keep your ask to one item or a couple related items. The more you add to your application, the more watered down the ask gets. Recommend, as again I shared earlier, add some extra comments to your budget. Recommend that you don't wait till deadline day to submit your application, do it a day before. Or two, if your word count is slightly over or if you've missed a checkbox, you might not be able to submit. If you're a nonprofit, you won't be able to submit. It has to be your charity partner. Adding a little bit extra time is a bit of cushion for you. Again, recommend that you save often if you can. It is on autosave. Doesn't always work as well. If you want to work on a side document in Google Docs or in Word, That's a great way to make sure you keep everything and you don't lose any work. Also recommend that you have a colleague or a friend who's not connected to the project read the application. Your application should make sense to someone who's not in your organization or in your direct line of work. You want to make sure everything in the application matches everything in the budget. And if not, you have the opportunity to make some quick changes. And if the small grant stream isn't a good fit for your project, we have a couple other granting streams that might be. Our community grants will be open again in August. That's where you can apply for $50,000, sometimes $80,000 in funding for an initiative. And it's for a very broad range of initiatives, including operational pieces. We have youth grants available for community projects that are organized, led by, and delivered by youth in that 13 to 24 age group. We have an application open until March 15th. We'll also have another round of applications open on September 15th and due on March 15th. Also want to touch a little bit on endowments. So an endowment is a permanent fund that generates stable annual income. So if you partner with the Edmonton Community Foundation, organizations can benefit from professional investment management, administrative support, and donor-focused expertise. So that's something that can help you strengthen donor relationships and enhance long-term financial sustainability. A lot of our granting that we do from this organization are from endowments that have been set up by donors and organizations. So our donor-advised and designated givings are grants where a donor has identified that they want all of their funding to go to one particular organization. These grants are specific to the donor or their chosen charity. Agencies can't apply for them. As well as we have student awards. So we have a number of scholarship opportunities available throughout the year. In 2025, we gave out $1.6 million in student awards to over 551 students. So just want to take a moment to say thank you for spending some time with me to learn a little bit about our small grants process. Again, if you have any questions, our grants team can be reached at grants@ecf.ca, or you're welcome to call us at 780-426-0015. Thanks again.